This is Hospitality 1-to-1, conversations on the industry. Here's your host, Chris Bettis.
Joining us today, Sarah Pittson. Now, I have to fall on my sword here because, you see, we actually already did this interview. It was a great interview, a complete one. It was a masterpiece, I tell you. One of the best we've done. And then we went to listen to it and realized that halfway through there were some technical difficulties. And I'm pointing to myself, those who are listening and not watching. So, because of that, Sarah has agreed to let me do it over again, and I promise I'll get it right this time. But, since Sarah came on, those of you who may or may not have been listening to the podcast or watching have known we've launched a new feature here now. As you know, Beekeeper is one of our proud sponsors. We're happy to work with them. And in light of Beekeeper, as we said, where do bees hang out? Of course, the hive. And the hive is a chance for us to kind of go take about a minute, and we're going to go for a couple of questions, get to know more about Sarah. And some are hotel-related, some not. So without any further ado, and as dramatically as I can say it, I always think like the guy from Iron Chef, be really dramatic. But as dramatically as I can say it, Sarah, are you ready to step into the hive?
I'm ready, Chris.
Okay, here we go. Here we go. There's no music, no lights, it's just this. All right, here we go. All right. And first question. What was your first job?
Packing fruit.
Packing fruit. Okay. If you could live anywhere, where would it be?
Probably somewhere in the UK.
Nice. Best vacation.
I don't get vacations very often. I think my dream vacation would be in Greece. I would love to go to Greece.
Suddenly I'm picturing Mamma Mia at this point. All right. Favorite hotel?
I don't have a favorite.
Diplomatic. What is your favorite restaurant?
Oh, there's a place here in Spokane called Peekaboo Bistro, and they have almost all of my favorites on the menu. So I'm going to say that right now. But that changes. That can change.
Apple or Android?
Apple.
First car?
We called it the Bomb. I don't even remember what kind of car it was. I think it was like a Chrysler, and it was about to break down any second.
The Bomb. And, of course, morning person or night owl?
I'm a night owl.
Coke or Pepsi?
Pepsi.
Pepsi. Here's the life-changing question. Toilet paper, over, under?
Oh my gosh, I'm a hotelier. It goes over. That is the correct way.
And the last one, favorite movie?
Oh, yep, that's another one. I cannot tell you a favorite. I'm a huge film fanatic. We tried one time to have a favorite, and we ended up with the top 20, me and my husband. So there is no favorite.
Now, do you like are you the fan of going to the movies and catching new movies?
I do like to. I don't get to as often as I can. We kind of generally try to choose which ones do we want to see in surround sound, Dolby, which ones are worth that, $10 or $12 a ticket.
I'm a movie snob, okay?
Uh-oh.
And so for that reason, there's like the same, I'd say 40 or 50 films that if you gave me those movies and said that for the rest of your life, all you can watch was these movies, I'd be okay.
That's awesome. I have a few of those. I can watch them over and over and over, and I don't get tired of them.
Mine, unfortunately, and I have to turn my man card in now, a lot of them are chick flicks.
No.
I'm in touch.
I never would have guessed.
I'm in touch with my sensitive side. All right.
Actress.
Actress Anne Hathaway. Yes, she is.
I don't have a favorite.
Nice.
I don't play favorites, obviously.
Nice. All right. Well, with that being said, now that we've gotten to know more about you, and we learned about my actress likes, what I wanted to do is kind of get kicked off because you have a great background. I mean, both with the university as well as how you got to this. So I wanted you to take a moment here before we kind of go into what you do in your current role. Kind of tell your story. How did you get into the industry, and how did you get to where you are today?
Oh, that's so long. I'll try to keep it really short. How I got into the industry, my uncle was installing floors. His company was installing floors in a brand new hotel that was going up, and I needed a job, so he went to the owner and said, my niece is looking for work. Do you have a place for her? And so I joined the opening crew, cleaning up the construction dust, hanging pictures and shower curtains and delivering case goods to the rooms and things like that. So that's how I got into it. After that, I kind of just worked my way up the ladder. So I started in housekeeping and as a room attendant. And I wanted to go to the front desk next, so I went to the front desk and worked there for a few years, and eventually just worked my way up the ladder till I was at IHG Corporate.
So here's the question. You've worked a number of roles, from obviously housekeeping, among others. Mm-hmm. What was your favorite?
I love being a guest service manager.
Why'd you like it so much?
I am a people person, really. I don't like to do a lot of reporting and accounting and things like that. Those aren't my strengths. People, I'm all about people and relationships, and I really like the leadership aspect. And I felt like having the buffer of the general manager and then, being kind of right underneath there. So you're in with the operations and you're in with all of that, but you don't have that account. You don't have to be an accountant to do the guest service manager job. So I really liked just solving problems and leading the team and being out at the desk and being out on the floor. That's where my heart gets pumping.
So, kind of walk us through here, because you've gone from that role to an even more public, to step out on your own, if you will, and create something new. And what we're talking about is a product called the Hotel Leadership University. And it's a course that Sarah has created. I kind of wanted to get your thoughts behind, first of all, what led you to create this university?
Well, mostly my own experience in the industry. I felt like as I was coming up, and again, I worked my way up the ladder. So kind of worked in all different disciplines. And as I was in those disciplines, it was really difficult to find somebody with leadership that was really good. There's a lot of people that try, but that real people-focused leadership. And way back then, I didn't know that it was leadership that I was looking for. I didn't have terminology around it. But I was having a hard time finding mentors, people that could teach me how to work through people to get really good business results. And so it came from that. It came from my struggle finding the right mentors. And then as I moved up and got into IHG Corporate, I was a regional consultant where I had 100 hotels in my region, and my job hinged on regional results. So I started really taking a really close look at, when your job hinges on that, you're really paying attention to what makes a hotel successful. And that was the differentiator. The general manager's leadership abilities, that was the differentiating factor between the poor performers that we struggled to move the needle on no matter what we did. It was like we couldn't get them to do better. And the ones who easily they pivot, they changed course, they were able to work through their people, and it was like magic. And what I realized is that was the differentiating factor, was that leadership piece.
So, let's talk about the course itself. What is this course? We kind of break it down. What is it? What does it consist of? How long does it take? Kind of talk about the course logistically.
Sure. It started out as more of a mastermind. So the core curriculum for HLU is the master classes. My signature master class is called From Manager to Leader master class. And so it started out as a mastermind. So it was a bunch of hoteliers coming together to study leadership principles and strategies at a set time every week for 6 weeks. And so that's how it started. And then what kind of came out of that, I learned a lot teaching the first classes. And what kind of came out of that, as we know, is general managers are very busy people. And so it was really a challenge a lot of times for them to drop everything and show up, live. So as it started out live, those challenges were kind of coming up. So what I was doing was trying to pay attention to what other people in other industries were doing, what other educators were doing. And that's when we see these online courses just started popping up all over the place. Everybody was doing online courses. And so then I started saying, that's perfect. Let's do that. So then now that's transferring. Now we're putting everything online. So it's all pre-recorded. And we had to make some tweaks because leadership is a participant sport. We've all been watching the Olympics. It's something that you have to actually apply. But basically you come through the master class when you sign up for HLU. And then we are adding several other classes that are geared more toward director type roles, where you have several, if you have several hotels in your portfolio that you are like a regional director of operations, and some other things for just personal development, how to find your specialty, how to sell your specialty in an interview. Some of those different classes we are adding now.
So how long does it take for the each course? If you're, for example, if you sit down and want to take one of these particular classes, is it 2 hours, 30 minutes, an hour? What kind of time frame?
The master class is divided into 3 modules. It's self-leadership, team leadership, and then creating winning culture. And each of the videos that you watch in each of the modules, they range from about 15 to 30 minutes.
Okay. So very manageable time frame. You can do it at lunch, or it can be done. Now, is it video only, or is there some like worksheet they have to do?
Yes. You get tons of different worksheets so that you've got that application piece. We kind of follow a 3-step formula at HLU. It's learn, apply, reflect. So it's not so much one of the biggest differences in this particular course is we don't want to add more knowledge. I mean, we've got information coming out of our freaking ears. We're on information overload. We don't need to add more knowledge. We need to apply so that we can learn. I mean, real learning doesn't really happen until you apply it.
So you've got, as this is a living, breathing, evolving course, someone signs up for something and the material changes. Are they able to take advantage of any new changes that may come in after they've enrolled?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's one of the really kind of cool parts of the whole online experience, is that you can add these courses and alert people, hey, just added a new course, go ahead, and it's all at your fingertips. You sign up for a year, so you have access to that for 12 months. So as long as it takes you to go through that, you've got a whole year to do it. We used to do it in 6 weeks, if that gives you an idea of how long, what the material is like. But now you've got 12 months to do it. So you work at your own pace.
So is there a certain hotel, either limited service, full service, branded, independent, that would best utilize, you're coming from a certain type of hotel that would best use this training?
Yeah, it's for pretty much all hotels. I mean, we're talking about team leaders. So if you had a team, if you're a supervisor or a manager, this is perfect for you. If you're a manager in training, this is perfect for you. This is all about the psychology of influence and working through people to get business results. And that's really what it's about, is taking that investor's goal of how to get that. Obviously, investors, we all watch Shark Tank, right? Kevin says it very well. Mr. Wonderful will tell you, I'm a simple guy. It's all about money for me. So we've got these investors. They want us to make money. And what we need to do is learn how to create people strategies to deliver predictable results for them, for their businesses. And so that's what we focus on, is studying how to do that. How do we bring leadership into the hotel world and create predictable results? So that's what it's all about.
Helping you get from point A to point B in a predictable pattern, if you will, as you said.
Yes,
So one of the things that's kind of unique, if you go to Sarah's website, which is sarahpittson.com, obviously it talks about her background, of course, talks about the university, but there's another really interesting tab, and it's actually a passion of ours here at the Hospitality One-to-One podcast, and that is mentoring. She takes it a step further. In fact, she lists 2 mentors on there, one being John Maxwell, the other being her late grandfather. And I wanted to kind of ask you, first of all, what roles the mentors played in your life?
Let's start with John Maxwell. I am a member of his team, certified leadership coach, trainer, and speaker. And what John Maxwell changed my life. Like, I'd heard of him before I joined the team, but I didn't know very much about him. I think I read like half of one of his books way early on, where it didn't click with what I was doing at the time. How you do that. But then after having all of this experience coming up through the ranks and really putting my focus on leadership and understanding that the leadership deficit was what was holding our hotel business back, or our industry, so to speak. When I got with John Maxwell and I read the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, it was like worlds collided. I was like, this is it. This is what I've been doing in my career. This is what I've been trying to explain to people what I'm doing, to get results. But now we have language around it. Now we have actual principles that can be leveraged and a common language. And so that just was life-changing for me. So I was like, I have to get this into the hands of hoteliers, because this is it. This is how we get predictable business results. So John Maxwell has just changed my whole life. And then my grandfather, he was really my first coach. He was very Socratic. So he asked a lot of questions when he was teaching. He was a professor, a university professor, and he would always ask us questions. Everybody who knows him, especially us, as family members, we remember him very much as the person who would sit and he would say,
the thinker.
Yes, he would say, Sarah, I was reading an article the other day, and he would tell you a little bit about it. And he would say, I'd like to know what your thoughts are on that. And then he would just listen. And he would ask questions along the way. So he was really my first coach. And I didn't know that was coaching at the time, but that was how I learned a lot of things in my life. And so coaching for me comes very naturally, and it's a passion of mine. I believe very much in not telling people what to think, but teaching them how to think. Thinking for yourself. You can't motivate somebody. They have to know what motivates them. And the only way to do that is to help them take that journey and facilitate that learning for them and connect them better to themselves. So that's where coaching is so powerful.
Wow. Now, you've brought up 2 different mentors entirely, professional and really personal. All right. Yeah. Define, if you will, I guess, 2 things. What do you see as a mentor's role in someone's life first, and then follow it up with what makes a good mentor? What attributes do you consider a good mentor?
The mentor's role in someone's life?
Yes. In other words, when I say a mentor's role, is it to provide advice? Is it to be a sounding board? Where do you see them best having a role in their lives?
Okay, sure. I think I understand the question. A mentor's role is really, we kind of, just to give you like a little bit of background about what we do. So there's several different ways that you can teach somebody or facilitate learning. There's coaching, where you're asking questions to help engage them in the thought process so that they're coming up with those answers on their own and really owning that. And there's training, where that's more of a tell. We're telling you how to do something. And then mentorship is, for me, a little bit of both. It's kind of a little bit of a combination, where I'm sharing some of my wisdom with you because I've walked this path before. Mm-hmm. So it's really a fast track where you get to learn from somebody who's already ahead of you in whatever this journey is. So you want to choose somebody who's a little bit ahead of you, who has some complementary strengths to your weaknesses. So where you may lack in a particular area, this person is good at that, and they can teach you and kind of fast track that learning for you. Go ahead.
I was going to say, the next part, of course, is what attributes, if you had to look at a person and say, okay, this ideal man or woman has these attributes which make them naturally a better mentor or a good mentor as opposed to someone else.
Mm-hmm. What are those attributes?
Yeah. The
ideal? Yeah. You want to choose somebody who is still learning. For me, this is from my perspective, from my role. You want to choose somebody who's still open to learning themselves. Like they aren't the kind of person who, I'm the expert, you do it my way. I've tried that, it doesn't work. It's more about sharing their experience. Like, this is what I've tried. This is what worked for me. Maybe you could try something similar. How would you change that for the experience that you're in? But somebody who is still open to learning, somebody who has time to teach. When we talk about mentorship, it's more of a formal relationship. So you want to make sure that person can be as committed to showing up as you are. And then, of course, somebody who is in a role that you want to be in at some point. So they're already there. They are sharing that part of their journey with you. A true leader can't take somebody where they haven't gone themselves personally. So really just choosing that person who is credible, is successful, they have successes, and they're already in that role that you want to be in at some point.
Why do you think it's so difficult? I mean, in theory, this is a fantastic idea, and obviously it's something that you champion heavily with the university and obviously made an impact in your life. But we also know in the same breath, it's not prevalent in our workplace culture in many cases. It can be in your personal world in some respects, but especially in the workplace area, a good mentor is hard to find. Why do you think that's such an issue?
In our industry, because I know that the best, and I think honestly, we don't recognize the need for it the way that maybe we should. A lot of our focus has shifted toward a financial side of things and a little bit less on that people side. And so looking at somebody and seeing their potential and saying, let's develop that, that's kind of secondary to to a lot of our other priorities in our industry. And I think that is actually one of the reasons that we're struggling. A lot of people don't want to say that we're struggling in our industry, but I believe that we really are when it comes to the people. And one of the things that I love that Simon Sinek says is, if you don't understand people, you don't understand business. And we are in the people business. We are in the industry where we are serving people. We serve our guests, who are people, and we have employees. Those are people. And so I think when you ask a question about why we don't have mentors as much as maybe we should, I think that it's just one of those things that that's a very people-centric idea, that principle of having a mentor. We don't champion people as much as we used to, or as much as we should, to be successful in our industry. And so I think that idea has kind of fallen away if you think about the power of a mentor in your life, someone who has who sees potential in you, and they just want to help you develop it. They see you for who you could be and not where you are now. And they're in your corner and they're coaching you and they're your biggest cheerleader. If you think about the power of that in your life and in your career, imagine how much further individuals can go and how much more we can accomplish.
Yeah, what a fascinating point to look at. I mean, really, it's helping. If we work together, we can take the struggle and we can move past it and grow as an industry, which, again, through mentorship is definitely doable. I guess the other part to it is, I guess, along with the struggle part we talk about, I believe right now the turnover rate in the hospital industry is around 70%, maybe 72%.
Huge.
And so because of that, I mean, what do you attribute? We probably have already kind of kicked around some of the ideas and reasons already, but why do you think there is such a high turnover rate?
From where I sit, I know that there's a lot of things that play roles. There's other elements that play a role in our turnover. But I really think that I believe that so much of our turnover is coming from our shift away from people. It's more on financials. It's more on that bottom line, which makes a lot of sense because in the past, 10, 20 years, we have become more of an investor's world. Mm-hmm. We're not, hotels aren't always owned by hoteliers anymore. It used to be more that way. And now hotels are owned by people their focus is on the bottom line. Their focus as an investor is how much money are you making for me? And I think that what that's done is that's really highlighted our leadership deficit in our industry, because now we have this almost priority tug of war. The hotel operators, general managers and their teams aren't in it for the money. I mean, I've heard so many hotel managers say, well, it's not like I'm here for the money, Sarah. I mean, we don't make millions of dollars off of our industry. So we're here for a very different reason as operators. We're here for the people. We're here as servants to our guests and our employees. And so I think what has happened is we have this gap where we think we have different priorities, which we kind of do. But what we're missing is, as leaders, we are able to create people's strategies that get investors what they need. And we don't have enough people in our industry who understand how to create people's strategies to get business results. And so we feel like we're at war with each other. Like, I want this money. Well, I'm trying to take care of my people, but really we're just not able to work together because we have a leadership deficit. That skill set is not there.
You need, to your point, it's almost like you're saying, to make the money, we got to have the service. We have to have the people side. You provide the people element, it will bring the money, because you're going to have word of mouth. The business will pick up. You'll have more heads and beds. You can increase the ADR. And at the end, it does result in more money. But if you look at it money first, you're never going to succeed. It's got to be the other way around first.
Absolutely. J.W. Marriott, we all know that was what he said. Take care of your people. They take care of the guests. The bottom line takes care of itself.
So, I mean, this kind of brings up the next phase, which is, okay, we see where hotels are today. We talk about the struggle, talk about the turnover. Now, let's look ahead. If we could pull out the crystal ball and look ahead. Next 5, next 10 years down the road, where do you see the industry going?
Yeah, it's funny that you asked that question, because we talk about this a lot, like it's going more tech savvy. Everything seems like it's again, going away from that people experience. But I think a lot of the reason that we are trying so hard to go away from that people experience is because we don't understand how to get results from our people. We don't understand how to work through our people. And so we start seeing them as, oh, well, if people are involved, there's human error, and we don't get as good results if we use people. Let's just have a computer do it. I think that we are going to see a lot of technology. Obviously, it's coming. It's coming down. It's already been coming down. That a lot of things are going to tech, and I think tech has a really powerful role to play in it. But I don't think that technology will ever provide the human connection that people really crave and really need in their life. Whether you like it or not, we all need each other. And if we're not able to work through our people, we are still going to have problems in the hotel industry because we're not working through our people. So yeah, technology it's here, it's in the future, it's going to happen. But I think that one of the things that we do need to do in our industry, if we're going to move forward, if we're going to stop this turnover, we're hemorrhaging money. I mean, investors want to see the bottom line. We're throwing away hundreds of thousands of dollars in turnover costs. That in itself is a huge opportunity.
Yeah.
So yeah, technology is coming, but we've got to turn back to our people. We have to focus on people.
You were talking about technology. I happened to recently read something. I mean, the hotel of the future, and it's coming very, very soon. In fact, I think there are a couple of hotels that actually do this, where you could actually walk in, you book online, you book with your phone, you then walk in. They have kiosks instead of front desk agents. You then scan a barcode on your phone. It will then check you in, and it activates a key on your phone. You then can walk into your room. Of course, an hour or two later, you're like, wow, I need a razor, or I need an extra pillow, or I need a towel. And you basically call in, you use it, you text in for a towel, and a robot brings you your towel.
Oh my gosh.
So now we're at a point where you had no personal communication when you walked in the door, and when you had a particular need, you had no communication at all. So what do you see? I mean, when I think of that, I mean, as we look ahead, I mean, there's a plus and minus to it, of course, but do you foresee any major challenges as technology becomes more prevalent in hotels? If that's the future of hotels, as technology, how do we continue to increase or keep the personal touch, the interpersonal communication when we're being replaced by machines and by gadgets?
It's a great question. I mean, when you think about hotels, let's say we all have robots. Let's say we all have this technology, and you don't have any face-to-face time with people. What differentiates one brand from another? What differentiates one brick and mortar building from another one at that point? You know, the biggest differentiator that we have is the people. People, I mean, when you talk about employer brand, that's why we're focused on employer brand, is because we want to be different. We want that to be the point of difference is, how do we treat people? What's our service like? How do we take care of our people and we attract those kinds of people? It's all about culture. But if we remove the people, what is the difference between the brands? The sign?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm kind of asking the question just because I don't have the answer to 10 years from now when we're all replaced with robots, but I can tell you that robots don't provide an emotional experience. So if there's no emotion there and there's no people connection, really, what is the point of having different brands?
I mean, that's a great point. I mean, I guess with that being said, you look at the industry now and those who have been in it many years and can watch it, and it may be the same answer for you. How have you seen from when you started out with your uncle, and then, of course, you working at the front desk, and to today, how has the industry changed? And I'm going to call a little shout out, if we will, and say you can't use technology as the answer, because we already talked about technology.
Right.
So aside from technology, how has the industry changed?
Yeah, aside from technology, it's definitely, like I said before, it's really become a financial game. It's been all about revenue. And we saw, with the Great Recession, we saw a lot of hotel employers strip our teams of those real service support roles. You know, how I started as a PBX operator in a full service hotel. A lot of hotels don't even know what I'm talking about when I say PBX operator anymore. We don't have that. It all goes to the front desk. So we have now people who are doing their job. They're doing the job of like 2.5, sometimes 3 people. And when you think about putting people first, when you think about the amount of burnout that we have, and which it attributes to a lot of our turnover, is people are burned out. They can't do all of that work. We expect focus service hotels. The general managers are the director of sales. They're the accountants. their HR, all of these things. And then we're like, but we also need you to be a leader, It's like, there isn't enough hours in the day for all of that. And I don't have the energy to sustain that kind of, that workload. It's impossible. It's horrible to do to people. And so I think that has been the biggest shift, is we've taken away all these support roles in service, and yet we want that service to be top notch.
Yep.
And I think that has really, it's destructive, really. And it's no surprise when you think about how much things have changed over the last 10, 15 years to see our turnover rates.
We talk about where it has been, we talk about the idea of where it's going, but I wonder, we have people who are, either in college now or even in high school now, and they're going to go to college, or they're going to be work in the industry, or they may be thinking about it, or you got the person who's just graduated, and they're in their first 6 months, first year of their job in the hospital industry. Kind of give me an idea. What advice do you have from them?
What I'd say to somebody coming up like that is, absolutely, you have to know your job. You have to be able to manage the asset. You have to be able to manage systems and operations. But don't downplay the people side of it, because I know so many managers who are really good managers, but we manage things. We manage systems, operations, and processes. Those are managed. You can't manage people. You have to be able to lead them. You have to understand what makes people tick. You have to understand how to put people first and what that means. So I would just say, don't get started as soon as possible in leadership. That's one of the things I think that a lot of times we do is we don't realize until we're, our age, oh my gosh, there's things I need to know about how to influence people, how to be a better influencer, how to get results and predictable business results through people. And what happens is you've gone, 10 or 15 years in your career focused on operations and not on people. And in our industry, we have a lot of old school ways of doing things that are just don't work. They never have worked for long-term results, but now it's freaking plain out destructive, because now we have this younger generation. They want to be significant. They want to know that they're making a difference in the world, and you cannot manage them. It doesn't work. So what happens is we start passing down these old school management ways of managing people, and that doesn't work, but we have now set up these really destructive habits and ways of dealing with people, and you have to unlearn those things when you start looking at the psychology of influence. And so it creates a little bit more of a challenge. There's a little bit more work to do. And so that's why I say get started as early as possible. If you think you want to be a manager, absolutely you can learn operations on the job. Absolutely you can have a mentor for that. But you need to have somebody who actually knows how to teach you how to lead. Teach other people. That multiplication has to be there.
I think to that end too, if you do have an interest in growing in your career, if you want to be a manager, don't assume that your current manager knows that. Raise your hand, right? Speak up, and then, as you say, have that mentor that can work with you. I mean, terrific advice. Well, I'll tell you what, we did it. We did take two. We did a great job. I think we worked out just fine here. Nice job. Of course, if people want to get a hold of you, learn more about the Hotel Leadership University, or pick your brain, how can they reach you?
You can reach me through my website is a really fast way. Just get on my mailing list. I actually give out my own work email, so you don't go to, some random admin or anything like that. If you've got questions about anything, I am totally into that people first focus. So, you get me on my email. Another way to do it is to get into my Facebook group. We've got a Facebook group for HLU. It's called the HLU Leaders Hub. Okay. So you can find that there. We can link it here too if you want. Mm-hmm. That's the fastest way to get in there. I do a lot of free training in there. We do like focus on service and things like that. So it's a really kind of a cool way to get your feet wet if you want to in leadership and what HLU is all about and what leadership is. I think leadership is a really hot buzzword right now. Yep. A lot of people are throwing it around. So one thing I did want to say is what we study at HLU is the psychology of influence. Leadership is your ability to influence. It's not being out in front first. It's not position and title related, although we do work with team leaders. You can be a leader no matter where you were at. So
you've described the difference between a dictator and a leader.
A dictator tells you what you will think.
A leader tells you why you should do something. A dictator just tells you to do it.
Yeah, exactly. Oh. Lots of different leadership styles. That's another thing that's so fun, Chris, is understanding there are different leadership styles to deploy depending on what team you're leading and what their strengths are and where that team is. I mean, it's so fascinating once you start getting into it. It's really addictive.
Great conversation. Really is. What we're going to do, of course, as always, we're going to put a link to all of Sarah's information up on our website, yourhotelrecruiter.com. Of course, when you go to the Hospital One-to-One podcast tab up top, you click on it. It has all the podcast episodes. Of course, Sarah's will be up there as well. Under her video and audio will be the show notes, and we'll have her bio, and of course, we'll also have the links that she's talked about. And you can connect with Sarah, learn more about the Hotel Leadership University, about her, and hopefully connect with her that way. Sarah, great conversation.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you so much for having me. It's really fun. I love talking about this stuff.
Well, I love talking to you about it. All right. And again, any questions, reach out to Sarah. Have a great day.